It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
And
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday already. Kind of snuck up on me. Over the hump we go.
Today's show is sponsored by the Reversible Bidet. It's refreshing for both ends. And now in soothing menthol.
I don't even care about the menthol part. I am not going to be sniffing. I swear.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave. Just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Got to do something a little bit different today. I know a lot of the news is on the convention. We'll get to that at some point. And I do have some more news. As you've probably heard about the Secret Service and the Trump shooting. So we'll get to that a little bit later. But I want to go back to something that I was having fun with at the end of yesterday's show. And now there's some new information which makes me stop and go, hold on, we need to talk about this. I don't know who Ingrid Andress is or didn't know. Apparently she's a very popular singer. And she was asked to sing at a baseball game the national anthem. And it was so bad. And she's Grammy nominated. It was so bad, people were wondering. I was even wondering, did she have laryngitis or something?
But we were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets red glare.
See that? Okay, you get the idea. That was really bad. And so we talked about that yesterday on the air. What the hell? What happened there? And some people even wondered, was she okay? I had to go look her up. I found, of course, she has a lot of videos on YouTube, and I listened to her sing, and actually, she's really good. She's got a lot of great songs out there. I understand now why she was Grammy nominated, because a lot of what I heard, I thought that was really good. So what was going on that night? Well, here's the headline. Ingrid Andress says she's checking into rehab after that viral, pathetic national anthem performance. Now, she's a young lady, and this always worries me. Whenever I see anybody of a very young age become popular through music or movies or whatever the case is, I always worry about what's going to happen to them. The reason I worry is it's Hollywood. It's the music industry. They can make people rich and famous. They can also destroy them. And how many young actors and singers and other celebrities of very young age have you seen just get destroyed by these industries? So many people dream about being rich and famous, but careful what you ask for. Okay, so the story says her most recent album, Good Person, released in 2022. She shared on social media this week she was so stoked to announce her new single, Colorado 9, which will be released next week. She also announced one in Nashville on July 17th. She'll be in Denver on the 24th. So she gets around quite a bit, right? Story says country music artist. I didn't know she was a country music artist. I was just listening to good songs. Which, by the way, she doesn't do country pop, which I'm glad to hear because I can't stand listening to country pop among other pop music. Country music artist Ingrid Andress said she was intoxicated during much of her criticized performance, much criticized performance of the national anthem on Monday. On Tuesday, she posted a statement on her verified social media account writing, "I'm not going to bull blank you all. I was drunk last night. I'm checking myself into a facility today to get the help that I need. That was not me last night. I apologize to Major League Baseball fans for that rendition. She ended on a high note saying, let y'all know how rehab is. I hear it's super fun. So at least she's trying to end on a high note there. Okay. And then it talks about her career. She had a debut album, Ladylike, in 2020, reached number 1 on Billboard. A year prior, her single, More Hearts Than Mine, hit Billboard Top 100. She's been doing really well. Looking at a picture, she's a very attractive young lady, very young. But this is, after I read that, I thought, oh, okay, I get it now. This is what I typically see, and I know a lot of you do as well, when young people get involved in, again, music industry, Hollywood in any way, and you see what happens to them over time. It can be poison to them unless they have really good guidance. Those industries can be poisoned, not just because of the money and the fame, and they do need guidance around that, but because of many of the poisonous people that are in those industries. Some of the most creative people that we have out there, unfortunately, are some of the most horrible people that we have out there. And when they get a hold of someone young in their industry, dear Lord, help them. Because it's going to be bad. And so this is why oftentimes you hear me very critical of Hollywood types, and especially people really high up in, whether it's the music industry or the Hollywood industry, whatever the case is, I get very critical because they are massive hypocrites and oftentimes just completely morally bankrupt and even lack all sense of common sense and intelligence, but they act like because they're rich and famous, they're better than the rest of us. Well, they have talent. I'll give them that. They've got really enormous talent. Other than the talent we enjoy watching, these people usually are about the dumbest and most morally bankrupt among us and not worth following and not worth admiring. So my opinion of Hollywood celebrity types from when I was much, much, much younger, I mean way younger, my opinion of them way back then, to who I realized that a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are later on in life, makes me I just quit even getting curious about Hollywood figures or even, celebrities of any kind. I find myself not even curious anymore because if I end up finding out who they are, in most cases, I get enormously disappointed in them to the point that I find it very difficult to watch them anymore. So what I tend to do now is just ignore them, ignore their personal lives, just enjoy them on the big screen, enjoy them on television, listen to their music, and then I don't want to know anything else about it. I don't. So for this young lady, who yesterday I was, like everybody else, very critical of, what was that performance? Dear Lord, what is wrong? Were you sick? Did you have laryngitis? No, she was drunk again and is checking herself into rehab, which I appreciate that she's doing. Now, I don't know if that was her decision. I have no idea if somebody talked her into it. No clue. Just glad that she's doing it. And since she is a very young lady, I hope that she gets through this, can continue her career, and has learned something. Because there are those people who actually do make it through and have a long, healthy career and healthy life because they figured out how to survive what the big time will offer them. So from what I said yesterday, today I say good luck to you. I hope you do well.
My back hurts from carrying the weight of being my mom's most badass child.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
To empower families like Ken's.
I wouldn't be living as good of a life with ALS if it wasn't for MDA. MDA is helping people live stronger and love longer. Learn more at MDA.org today.
.2 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So after the Trump shooting over the course of the weekend, in fact, on Monday, I said to you guys, I have my idea what I think was going on, but wait till I get more information in. You might hear I might change my tune. I've only changed my tune so far in this respect. Wow, do we have some incompetent people on that Secret Service detail? As video showed, there were people screaming and pointing to the police and to other agencies that were there. Hey, there's this guy on the roof over there. And you can see the guy on the roof. He's crawling up the roof, and there's video of it from people's phones. And that's one thing I was asking as I was watching the day of the shooting, as they played that over and over again. We're going to get cell phone video from all over the place, all over. That's typical these days. And it's going to reveal a lot. So when I hear from the lady in charge of the Secret Service detail, well, we didn't put anyone on that roof because it was a pitched roof, and that's just not safe. What? The agents that shot the shooter were on a roof that was more pitched than that. So what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Here's some of the latest. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle, I think is her name, said in an interview Tuesday that her agency was solely responsible for the implementation and execution of security at former President Trump's rally. She told CNN that no assets from the rally were diverted on the day that Trump was shot, even though there were other events in the state that required Secret Service protection. Quote, at that particular site, we divided up areas of responsibility. But the Secret Service is totally responsible for the designing, basically, and implementation of the execution of the site. So previously, the Secret Service director told ABC News that local law enforcement was responsible for the building where the 20-year-old climbed onto the roof. But now she's saying, we were. And my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, my understanding is the Secret Service is responsible, but they do call in local law enforcement. But all right. Quote, what I was trying to stress was that we just divided up areas of responsibility, and they provided support to these areas of responsibility and couldn't do our job without local law enforcement. Okay, fine. Here's what gets me about people saying, I claim full responsibility. She's not going to quit her job. If you claim full responsibility, then what are the consequences? I mean, just to say you claim full responsibility, so what? And now, if you claim full responsibility, it's your fault, then do something like resign, which she's not going to resign her position. Also, I've been, as many of you have, looking at information that she was not really qualified to have that job in the first place. Which is why I say, what is with some of the incompetence that we have out there? I'll give you an example of that. In Florida, they put what they call resource officers in schools. In other words, armed police officers patrolling the school just in case they have a school shooting. And yet some years ago, when a school shooting did happen, that police officer wouldn't go into the building. Yeah, he was a coward. The guy turned out to be a coward. We're relying on him. You see the cop in a uniform with a gun, and he has all that training and the weaponry, and you assume that, well, obviously we're safer with him here. Well, maybe not. And you'll have to remind me what was the name of the other town. There was a shooting going on where the entire police force showed up. And they even went into the building, but they wouldn't engage. And then we heard excuses later on, well, the door was locked. And no, it wasn't. And even if it was, they're the police. They can get past that. There's ways through. There's other ways around. But they just wouldn't engage. Well, why not? And a lot of times it's cowardice. Sometimes it's incompetence. Whatever the case might be. But I'm finding that oftentimes the people that we have spent money on, trained, and want to rely on to be the best among us, some of them definitely are. We have heroes out there. We've talked about them many times and honored them in many ways in this country. But then there's other people who are just flat out incompetent. How do you not have somebody on that rooftop where the shooter was during the Trump rally? They should have several people up there. How do you not? And when people are screaming out, hey, there's a guy on the roof over there, why don't you do something about it? Now, I understand for the conspiracy theorists out there who, and I understand completely why your mind goes that direction. My mind is still going the direction of boy, who are these incompetent people that we have surrounding the president at this point? And I've seen incompetence on a lot of other levels and even cowardice around the country in so many different situations. So when this lady steps up and says, well, my agency is responsible and the buck stops with me, she says, I take full responsibility. Well, okay. I think someone saying they take full responsibility should come with consequences. You just admitted that you completely blew it, so we'll start by firing you. How about that? We'll go from there. Because she accepted full responsibility, let's act like it. But yeah, at this point, everything that I'm seeing just shows, wow, that was really a mess. The president was nowhere near as safe as he should have been, surrounded by the people who we thought were just the best. I mean, you assume the Secret Service is the best. I would assume some of them are. But this group, I think a good number of them shouldn't even have that job, especially the director. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming our way after a local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. It is a Wednesday, so over the hump we go. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming Wednesday. Nice morning so far out there. Has been a bit on the smoky side. I'll talk about that a little bit later with Don Day at 7:45 because there's been some fires out there. It's the fire season. And there's been a few fires out there, and that's mostly to the west of us. That's brought some of that haze that you've been experiencing. One of the things I thought was interesting, my car, which is black, was nice and clean. And then some rain crossed over my house, and it didn't last long, but it rained really hard for just a short period of time, and it was done. And then when I went out later to my car, I'm noticing my car's filthy. And I realized, oh, that's right, it's been smoky. And that rain just fell through all of that smoke, which means dirty rain, and now my car's filthy. But more about that later on this morning. All right. This I thought has been interesting. I've been following this for a while. So let's go to Natrona County, and there's a drive that is an absolutely beautiful drive. You go up Casper Mountain, right? Come down the other side of Casper Mountain on the, let's call it the west side of it, we'll say. And you can take this beautiful back road route all the way around. All right, well, part of that's been under dispute because it goes through private land. So the owners of the land haven't had a problem with that, and the county's been maintaining the road. But then people started to abuse that privilege. So people have been trespassing, dropping garbage, other such problems. So the owners of the road started to complain about it. Eventually, they just put up a road closed sign because it's their property. Natrona County had a meeting last night about this. So here's the latest Cowboy State Daily. Natrona County road blocked by a Casper area ranch couple on Friday had the barriers removed by workers Tuesday morning. The Natrona County Board of Commissioners, and it talks about who, are talking about County Road 505, also known as Circle Drive, which is once again open to the public, and they want to keep it that way. But we actually got some outside counsel and explained the whole situation, and his recommendation was for us to open up the road, and we did. They say no one showed up at the site to interrupt the county, taking away the closed sign and all of that, which was a hand-painted sign made by the property owners. Natrona County ranchers Walt and Stephanie Woodbury, and their ranch business on that area, and it talks about who they are and what their ranch is, have been complaining about trespassing, littering, and other issues on their property, which is why they said, that's it, we're closing the road. County is pursuing action legally to secure the road because the county has been maintaining that road for a very long time. Quote, we think of it as a county road. We think of it as properly established, whatever the process was back in the 1930s or so. But we just can't find records yet, and we are still working through getting records. But what we can't do is to be in limbo in this place. The statutory process is straightforward, and we're going to avail ourselves of that public benefit. Okay, so as it goes on here, my thought is what I think the county should probably do is sit down with the landowners and, okay, first off, you say your problems are, and let's list the problems out. Problems are people are trespassing, people are littering, et cetera, et cetera. So if we're going to have a road through your property, what can we do? And there's not going to be a perfect solution. There is no perfect solution for this problem. But if the county is putting a road through their property, it would be nice if the county did something for the people, whether it's trying to handle trespassers or polluters and so on, which should be part of the process, but also cleaning up. People are dropping garbage. If we catch them do it, we'll go ahead and fine them. But we'll also make sure to go through and maybe clean up your property now and then of people who are just slobs and drop stuff all over the place. I'm just tossing out suggestions to work out the situation. Now, again, I've been down that road. When I first was in the area, I was curious. I took the road on the north side, we'll call it, of Casper Mountain, which is a paved road, goes all the way up to the Bear Trap Meadows and so on. Then you just keep going. And it goes down the south side of the mountain, and that's where it becomes gravel. And it is beautiful back there. I mean, just absolutely beautiful back there. And it's this nice, slow, windy, well-maintained gravel road that heads all the way down the south side of the mountain. And then what I did was I just went ahead and caught a main road paved again and went back around to the other side of Casper again. And it took a while to do that drive, but it was absolutely worth it. I mean, just a stunning drive. So, okay, that's where they're at right now. The couple that owns the property put up handmade signs closing the road. On Tuesday morning, the county came along and said, sorry, we're taking those down, and we'll proceed from there. That's where we are now. Don Day's extended forecast up next. Wake Up Wyoming.
Okay, for $10 billion, would you... Yes. No, I didn't finish the question. Listen here. There was nothing, and I mean nothing, that could come out of that little pie hole of yours to make me turn down $10 billion. Even if one random person had to die? Yes. The answer is yes. Okay, what if it was someone you knew? Yes, take my aunt, take my grandma. Hell, you could blow the block up. Can you even fathom how much money $10 billion is? Oh, it's just a hypothetical. And if it was a reality, I'd be first in line.
Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
Coming up on 6:49's Wake Up Wyoming, off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino is waiting by. So, Frank, I sent you a story this morning.
You did?
Yeah, so for those people, I was talking about this earlier. Oh, my God. So what was wrong there? So this is that young lady who was singing the national anthem.
Ingrid
Oh, my God, horrible. So I went ahead and looked her up yesterday, and I found out, first off, she's actually a really good singer. She's incredibly good. And it's no wonder she was nominated for Grammys and stuff like that. She's checked herself into rehab after that.
She was drunk.
Yes.
That's not very smart.
No, that's not.
You're on national TV.
Yes.
Singing the national anthem.
Yes.
And you're drunk?
Yes.
And you turn in that?
Or performing at all anywhere. I mean, don't get out in front of your audience in that condition. And she's also a very young lady. And so the fact that she felt the need after that performance, she just was so embarrassed. And I wouldn't doubt that some people around her pulled her aside and said, you got a problem.
I would hope they'd have done that before.
Yes. And I also worry about people who, whenever they get into the entertainment industry, music, movies, television, whatever, there's always a danger like this. And I always worry about young people in the entertainment industry because, you've seen how it can ruin them. You've seen it in sports.
Yeah, but you're singing the national anthem.
Yes, right, yeah.
On national TV.
That's right, yeah. So I'm glad she's in rehab, and I hope she does well and comes out okay. Because if you go on to YouTube and look up her channel and watch her videos and listen to her music, she's a very talented young lady. So I'm hoping she gets it together, because if she wants it, she could have a marvelous life.
She will never live that down.
No. Well,
never.
Americans love a good comeback.
They do.
They do. So,
but she will always be remembered for that.
Hang on. Here's where I'll dispute you. If she comes back with an apology and does it again and just slams it and sounds really great, I think people will give her credit and forgive her for it.
Maybe. All right, American Legion baseball. The Laramie AA Rangers lost to the Greeley Grays 12-9 in the Lubbock, Texas tournament. East LA, the Dodgers of East LA beat the Cheyenne Sixers 3-1, and Lubbock High School over the Cheyenne Hawks 6-1. Also in Legion baseball at the A level, the Casper Drillers split a doubleheader with Buffalo. The Drillers won it 9-4, and Buffalo won the nightcap 12-11. Today, the Drillers will be in Douglas. The Cheyenne Sixers will take on Boise in that Lubbock tournament, and the Cheyenne Sixers will take on Strikes High School also in that Lubbock tournament. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game was in Arlington, Texas last night. The American League beat the National League 5-3. Jaron Duran of Boston hit a 2-run homer for the American League, and he was named the MVP of the game. Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Dodgers with a 3-run homer for the National League. The American League has beaten the National League in the All-Star Game 10 of 11 times. In collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds over the Bison traveling team 7-3. The Spuds are 34-6, and they'll play the Bison team at 6:30 tonight at Lansing Field. The Wyoming Coaches Association All-Star Games will be coming up on Saturday in Casper at Casper College. The volleyball game at 1, the girls basketball game at 3, and the boys basketball game at 5. In the girls basketball rosters on the South team, Jordan Grease from Burns is on that team, as well as Brady Schlaps from Cheyenne East and Addison Forey from Laramie, and Lexi Ransom is on the girls North team. The National High School Finals Rodeo moving along in Rock Springs. The Wyoming girls team is 3rd so far, and the goat tying Hadley Thompson of Yoder remains in 3rd place, and Chloe Nichols of Boulder is currently in 8th place in the barrel racing. On the boys' side, they are in 14th place. So the Jacob Cook of Green River 10th in the bareback, and also Trenton Sheehan 18th in the steer wrestling. He is from Rosette, and Keaton Hayden 18th in the cutting, and he's from Gillette. That runs all week at the Sweetwater Events Complex in Rock Springs. That's in sports.
I wish I knew something about goat tying. Let me tell you a quick little story. Many years ago, Little Sanibel Island, Florida, I'm a teenager, a young teenager, and I'm out in my yard. I'm going to go ahead and cut the lawn, and I look up, and a goat is coming at me. Kind of goat with horns. I don't know what breed that is.
And he wants to...
And he's just wandering around. So I had to go. I chased him for about a block. And we had finally, I literally grabbed the goat by the horns and pulled him on back and put him in our little carport there, tied up, and just waited because I knew what was coming. And a lady in a VW van, a hippie chick in a VW van pulls up. Have you seen a goat?
like that one there?
Yes, I have your goat right here. See, now if I knew goat tying back then, I probably could have caught him right there in my front yard.
Yeah, but you got some exercise.
I chased him through the neighborhood before I got him. All right, thank you, Frank. And literally, I grabbed the goat by the horn. True story. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. News time after that, and if all goes well, your Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, from the convention, the Republican convention, will be calling in. Let's wake up, Wyoming. 7:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday, and over the hump we go. And, of course, we have people from Wyoming at the Republican convention in Milwaukee right now, including your Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, who's on the line with us right now. Chuck, I hope you've been having a grand old time.
Glenn, we've been getting a lot of work done, and it has been a wonderful convention. I'm very confident that we're going to win in this 24 election.
Okay. Now, I got a call from a gentleman who's one of our state representatives yesterday, and he seemed to be having a good time, although I didn't get quite a bit out of him out of the work. So you mentioned work getting done. So besides what we see on television, what else happens at one of these conventions?
The formal nomination of President Trump and Vice President Vance, that's really the meat of the convention, Vice Presidential nominee Vance. That's the meat of the convention. And so that's what we did the first day. I was proud to announce that all 29 of Wyoming's delegates are cast for President Trump. And so that was formalized on Monday, and been chairing the Wyoming delegation out here. We've been really focusing on the message and on getting our candidates across the finish line in this 24 election.
Okay. Now, do you have any other kind of meetings other than what we see on the floor, or is it pretty much just all of that?
The floor is really the meat of the convention. Okay. I mean, last night was focused on just Biden's bloodbath at the border, crime, the fact that these Democrats are allowing crime across our country, allowing this illegal immigration that we must stop. And tonight is going to be really focused on J.D. Vance, the vice presidential nominee, introducing him, and it'll be culminating in his speech before the convention. And, of course, tomorrow night will be President Trump addressing the convention. Every single night, President Trump has been coming to the convention, been introduced. It has just been a tremendous moment every night. On day one, I mean, after what happened last weekend, this just horrific, horrifying assassination attempt, but we saw it. President Trump gets up, raises fist, says fight, and he is continuing to fight for our country.
I noticed he does have a presence there like most other conventions don't, because in most cases, the headliner doesn't even really step out into the public eye until the very end of the convention, but he seems to have been there every single step of the way. I also noticed that Trump said he wanted to change the tone, which there has been a change of tone, where the message is a bit more positive for America rather than just attack the Democrats. And I'm thinking that continues tonight when your vice presidential pick steps up there.
I think there has been a little bit of a maturation there, but at the same time, it's always the core of it is fighting for our country, and that fighting spirit, which President Trump has brought to the table since he came down that escalator back in 2015, June 14th, 2015. I mean, I'll never forget that moment. And it's been a really important decade for our country. And our country's on the line here. I mean, we have the potential to bring our country back. We see all the attacks on our state. I mean, our state, with Biden trying to lock up the entire southwest Wyoming, if he gets his way on that, he's going to go to northeast Wyoming next, and he's just going to split up the rest of our state and region by region, pick it off, lock it up from mineral extraction, from ag, from recreation. And that if he wins, if Biden wins, that's what he's going to do.
Okay.
And we're not going to be able to reach our full potential as Wyomingites. And there's so many different examples of that across our country, of where these Democrats want to turn us into vassals. They want to prevent us from being able to reach our full potential. And that's really what's on the line in this election.
You had a neat opportunity. I sent you a note about it because I saw you on television as the Wyoming Secretary of State. You got a chance to step out and show Wyoming's support for President Trump by making the official announcement.
Yes, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and to be able to chair the Wyoming delegation here. Of course, our state chairman, Frank Ethorn, is also here, and to be able to chair that Wyoming delegation is just a tremendous honor. And part of that was announcing that all 29 of our delegates are cast for President Trump.
All right. How much time do you actually spend there at the building, or are you going other places and visiting Milwaukee?
During the morning and the afternoon, there's a lot of policy discussion. So I'm going to a couple panels yesterday and then today. America First Policy Institute has a couple panels. Heritage Foundation has a couple panels. So we're really focused on policy during the day. And then in the evening, there's sort of the business of the convention. The first day was focused on the nomination, and then these last 3 days are really focused on the message and bringing forward that message to the American people. That's kind of been the structure of the modern day convention, at least in the Republican Party. I mean, these Democrats, they barely even meet, Glenn. I mean, did you see they're going to do a virtual roll call?
They're discussing
that.
They
can't even meet.
Yeah.
I mean, their nominee can barely form a sentence.
Yeah. So, they're discussing that right now. There's other Democrats coming out and saying, bad idea. So we'll see what they do. But, okay, this is a good opportunity. Again, you got J.D. Vance speaking tonight, as you said. The headliner comes out, Donald Trump, tomorrow night. Then you get to wrap it all up and come on home at the end of the convention. So for you, Chuck, I know this is going to be one for the memory books. You're going to probably are you going to take home any souvenirs from this while you're at it?
Well, I got my Trump hat.
Okay.
You know, this Rod Miller was, he doesn't like my Trump hat.
Yeah.
These clowns over at Cowboy State Daily.
Right.
They don't like our message focused on trying to get our industries intact, prevent Biden from destroying our state. And he doesn't like the hat, the fact that it says Trump on it.
Right.
And is trying to ridicule it and all this stuff. But the bottom line is, these folks at Cowboy State Daily, these leftists, they can't even make decisions on their own. They're putting forward AI candidates in Cheyenne. No wonder they can't make a decision, because they're so far to the left, they can't even evaluate these policies that the left is putting forward for what they are.
Okay.
Absolutely catastrophic for our country and for our state. But I'm so proud of my Trump hat, this novelty item that we got here, and be in Cheyenne here in a few days, and going to be wearing it proudly. And I really appreciate, Glenn, you allowing these updates from the convention. It's so important that we get this message of opportunity, this conservative, make America great again message out there, because our state can't afford 4 more years of this catastrophic Biden administration. And he's not even making the decisions. We know that, Glenn. He can't even complete a coherent thought.
All right. So from the convention in Old Milwaukee, Chuck Gray, your Wyoming Secretary of State. Thanks for coming on this morning.
All right, Glenn. I'll see you soon.
All right. Wake up.
Listen to Glenn Woods anywhere you roam with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
To help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
$7:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Wednesday. Over the hump we go. So, okay, good news for the oil and gas industry, which the left is just going to hate. How dare you? Ladies and gentlemen, in a hot nightclub somewhere, young people dancing with their hands in the air. Greta Thunberg's angry face staring down at them from TV screens above. How dare you? Because she's not going to be really happy at this news. I told you before that coal production, for example, worldwide is at a record high. Here in America, especially in a place like Wyoming where you have so much coal and so much coal production is way down. Even in Europe, coal production is way down. Rest of the world, though, record high. Especially when you look at places like China and India, but other places around the world, record high coal production, and they keep building more coal-fired power plants. So, oil and gas hit record high production despite opposition from OPEC and activists and even the Biden administration, says the story. The story says the United States, the United States, is producing more oil now than any nation in the world has ever produced. In 2008, the U.S. produced only 5 million barrels a day. Last year, the country produced 13 million barrels a day. Despite all of the best efforts from the Biden administration. The United States' record-breaking production is often used to knock back the arguments of President Joe Biden's energy policy to minimize domestic fuel production, to cut carbon emissions, and so on. So they're trying to. However, that's not what's happening. Because of, in often cases, states like Wyoming on state land, but also if you go to places like North Dakota, places like that where they can do it on private land. This is much like during the Obama administration, despite all that Obama did to try to knock back oil production, he couldn't stop what was happening in North Dakota and parts of Texas. All right, so Tony Rice, president and CEO of EQT Corporation, a natural gas company, said recently at an energy forum in Washington, D.C., that looking at production figures ignores the demand side of the equation. He says, and this is a quote, energy poverty for the first time in 20 years has increased. He said using the term refers to households reducing consumption of energy because it's so expensive. He said that's a travesty. It doesn't have to be expensive. The price should be coming down instead of going up if we have increased production. So clearly we're not doing enough, he said. We should be doing a whole heck of a lot more. And I would like to get the bureaucracy out of the way, too. That'll help those prices come down. Mark Mills is director of the National Center for Energy Analytics and put production increase into historic perspective. He points out that the only event that unleashed more energy upon the globe was the opening of the oil fields in Saudi Arabia between 1962 and 1972. The velocity with the American producers extracting energy from shale deposits in the U.S. increased production by about 15% greater than these Saudi oil fields. So we added more than the Saudi oil hydrocarbons altogether in less than 10 years, he said. Petroleum as a hydrocarbon. So Chris Wright, CEO of Liberty Energy, a Denver-based oil and gas company, said it's quite plausible with the technologies and resources available that the U.S. could increase energy production by the same amount in the coming decade. So the Biden administration, as recently as April, announced initiatives to try to cut back on what they call fossil fuel. Of course, I call that organic fuel, but they try to cut back on that. So this is why I say, despite the best efforts of the Biden administration, and what they can't stop is production on state lands and on private lands. They can really only affect production on federally owned lands, but they're trying really hard. And the bureaucracy through the Biden administration is trying really hard. Quote, the Biden-Harris administration is announcing key actions to build on this momentum and deliver clean, what they call clean electricity, to more homes and businesses, helping lower energy costs for American families. But as you and I know, that increases energy costs when you use wind and solar. To be sure, the story says, climate change activists have been successful in their efforts in large part by leveraging the power and influence of celebrity and money. Quote, climate change is threatening the future of humankind, says one group, whose stated mission is to help global transition to so-called clean energy. But instead, there's a wild card here. The explosion, the story says, of energy production in the U.S. is a result of shale technologies, according to speakers for the oil industry. So, and this has a lot to do with something that they hate hearing about, which is fracking, which is bringing up more oil than ever before. That's right. Remember back, for those who were listening back in the late 70s, early 80s, we were being told that we would be out of oil by now. We would have run it dry. There would be no more left. And yet now we're finding that we can get at more than ever before, and that's not just because we're able to find it, but when we do find it, we can do more to get at it than ever before, which means we have, in North America alone, hundreds of years worth of oil at least. So shale, of course, rock underground, less permeable than cement, but shale produces, well, in the U.S. now with hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling, they can get into those areas. And wow, we have found so much. In the summer of 2014, the story says oil prices in West Texas were about $100 a barrel by January 2015 that tumbled to about $45 a barrel, despite the market crashing, and OPEC, of course, having some say in that as well. Before the boom in shale production, the world oil market was largely controlled by OPEC, but no more. Rice says U.S. is not only producing record-high oil and gas from its shale resources, is doing it more efficiently than ever before. So let's take a look at what we're happening here. What we have here is, despite the best efforts, again, from the cult of climate change and from the Biden administration, despite their best efforts, again, on state lands and on private lands, and because of what they hate, fracking, we're getting at more oil than ever before. Quote, this is going to allow us to continue to find ways to produce our energy more cost effectively. Wright says the U.S. is the world's largest importer of natural gas. At the same time, the natural gas industry operated about 1,000 to 1,200 rigs. Today, companies are producing more than twice the natural gas with only about 100 rigs. And that's also because, well, we have new technology that's allowing us to get at it better than ever before. So the big oil and gas production, which began around 2008, brought a flood of investments to the industries, Wright explained. But then prices fell as the market was flooded with hydrocarbons. And you know, for those of you in the industry, the boom bust of all of that. Part of the other problem that we have, this has been a big problem with the Biden administration and with the Obama administration, is building pipelines. Your prices can come down a lot more if we could have pipelines to get it to different parts of the country. Then there's the problem with, let's take Boston, for example, paying exorbitantly high prices for natural gas when natural gas should be about one of the cheapest energy sources out there. That's what I mean by, yeah, they're producing more than ever before, so why are the prices so high? Well, let's go ahead and get that stuff to you. Let's get it through the bureaucracy, through the state government, through your federal government, and get it to you. Especially as the Biden administration tries to shut all of this down, and that increases your costs, making it more expensive rather than less expensive. We should be in the middle of a big energy boom where prices are lower and we have more energy than ever before. But instead, despite all of the production, makes it bizarre to think about. Coming up on some local news update on your weather forecast, Don Day joins me. We'll talk about some of the smoke in the air, as you've seen the past couple of days, along with the weather forecast. Wake up, Wyoming.
Want to talk to Glenn? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, if you're just listening a few minutes ago, I was telling you that despite the best efforts of the Biden administration and also environmentalists and so on, worldwide oil, gas, and coal production is at an all-time high, and use at an all-time high, despite everything that you're being told. Now, here in America, oil and gas production is at an all-time high. I mean, record highs. And if you're wondering, well, then why is it so expensive? Well, now, this is happening, by the way, not because of the Biden administration, but despite them. It's happening on private land and on state-owned land, not because of the federal government. And especially when it comes to delivering oil and gas and so on, as governments, not just your federal government, but even states and cities, trying to ban natural gas, trying to get you in electric cars. And things like this actually harm the energy industry, keeping prices higher than they should be. On that note, headline from Wildfire, Wyoming bans conservation bidders from oil and gas lease sales. This is part of what I'm talking about. Wyoming has narrowed its definitions for who can bid on state oil and gas lease parcels, disqualifying parties that intend to conserve the land rather than produce. So in other words, if there is a environmentalist, and I always have to say so-called environmentalists, an organization out there that wants to bid on the land and then sit on it and never do anything with it for conservation reasons. No, we're having you bid on it so people can go out there and produce off of the land. So the change made under the emergency rulemaking in June was mandated by House Bill 141, State Land, Oil, Gas, Lease Operators Requirement, which the legislators passed during the budget session. Representative Cyrus Western, Republican Bighorn, brought the bill on behalf of the Petroleum Association of Wyoming. The association raised concerns over the state's vetting process of land-based conservation groups. Wyoming Outdoor Council last July placed bids on state oil and gas leases in Sublette County, intending to not develop it, but just go ahead and sit on it. I've seen stuff like that before. In fact, going back to, I remember when Rush Limbaugh had become really big on the radio scene. And I remember him talking about how the show was shopped and sold to radio stations around the country, which is not easy to do. And some radio companies wouldn't want Rush Limbaugh on the air. Back when he was first getting out there, they would want to keep him off the air. So what they would have done, if they could have, is gone ahead and signed a contract for the show, but then just sat on it, just shelved it. Yep, we own the rights to it, but then they're not going to do anything with it. And so the contract said you can't do that. If you sign a contract for his show, you have to air it. You know, and a lot of companies do that in the entertainment field, and now it's also apparently in the energy development field as well here in the state of Wyoming. So if you're going to go along to a bidding, wherever they're doing the bids, for some land so you can produce oil and gas off of that land, then you need to produce it. It's the same idea. You can't just go ahead and bid on it and then sit on it. You have to produce. The story says if a small Wyoming conservation group can bid to block energy development, oil and gas-minded billionaires could do the same to trade, the trade association argued. So rather than wait for that to happen, we thought, let's step in now and let's put in place a bill that acts as a deterrent for doing that. Petroleum Association of Wyoming said to Wildfall. Ultimately, the Wyoming winning bidder in last year's controversial auction was a Casper-based Kirkwood Oil and Gas, the same company that had nominated the parcel at $19 an acre. And it talks about different tracts out there and what they plan to do with it. You get the idea of the story. So, okay, you pay for the parcel. You have to actually produce from the parcel, or we're going to go ahead and put it up for bid and let somebody else have it again. You can't just sit on it. Now, I wonder the same thing. Let's go back up to the Evansville area. For those people who live out there, you know, you have a bunch of wind turbines that have been sitting there for quite a while, not turning. And people in that area, that town, have been asking the question, aren't we supposed to get so much energy out of them where they have to come take them down? I wonder when someone's going to push that issue too, because when it comes to wind and solar energy, if it's sitting there idle, according to the deal that's usually made, then it either has to start working or it has to be taken down. You can't have wind turbines not moving. You can't bid on oil and gas land and not produce oil and gas. Coming up on 7:42, Don Day is going to be on with me in a couple of minutes. And we're going to talk about not just the weather, which is actually pretty nice over the next couple of days, but quite a bit of the smoke that some of you have seen in the area and where that's coming from. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming goes anywhere you do with the Wake Up Wyoming app. Free download for Apple and Android. This is K2 Radio.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. So, Don, I did notice something odd the other day. I solved the mystery, but I'm going to shoot it your way. I had a nice, clean car, and then a shower came over, a brief shower, but pretty intense. And when it was done, my car wasn't clean anymore. And I realized probably because it was dirty water from all the smoke it just cleaned out in the air on the way down.
Maybe, but it's an unproven yes. Scientific fact that when you wash your car, it rains.
Well, that's true, too. Yeah. Okay. I think that is a proven scientific fact. But, okay, having said that, I do know that we do have some smoke in the air. Nothing as bad as some years past, but it's hazy out there.
It is hazy, and a lot of the smoke you're seeing today is the same smoke you saw yesterday because the wind's aloft. If you were to measure the winds with a weather balloon from the ground all the way up to, let's say 40,000 feet or so, you'd find there's not a lot of movement up there. And so the smoke also tends to be trapped down in the lower altitudes. So there's not a lot to move the air around, stir it up. And so the smoke that's drifting into the region, until we get a weather pattern change that can shift our wind patterns a bit, it's going to hang around the haze.
Okay. Now, a slight change in the weather pattern over yesterday is just a little bit more rain.
A little more rain, yeah. The rain chances are better today, especially in the eastern counties of the state. But statewide, there's a bit more moisture to work with today. And we're going to see thunderstorms be more active one day, less active the next, then pick up again. So today, more thunderstorms. Tomorrow, less. Friday, more. It's going to be that back and forth right on through the weekend.
Okay. Now, I do notice that while the rain's doing that, so does the temperature kind of back and forth like a pendulum.
Yeah, and if you are lucky enough to get one of those afternoon and evening thunderstorms, that cools you off very nicely later in the day. We're not in the extreme heat that we were a week ago, so that's nice. But it's warm. It's summer warm out there. But if you look at our forecasted high temperatures and if you look at the 30-year averages, they're spot on.
Okay. Now, speaking of that, I did see one forecast, but I thought I'd question you about it, that showed this weekend there could be a little bit of a further drop in temperature. Nothing drastic, but, I mean, down a bit more than we're having right now.
Yeah, there's a pretty big push of cool air coming out of central Canada into the upper Midwest. Some of that cool air will push westward towards the divide. So for the eastern side of Wyoming, on the eastern side of the divide, some of that cooler air in the Midwest could push east. Westward rather. It's pretty remarkable. Here we are, middle of July. We'll be approaching the third week of July by the weekend. And there will be parts of the Midwest and Corn Belt that don't even hit 80.
Wow. Okay, see, that ought to be a nice weekend. I asked you on Monday, could you program a nice weekend? It looks like you're working on it.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Don. Don Day with day weather. No, I did notice that in the forecast that we could get into the weekend and be in the upper 70s. That's a possibility. Off we go to the Icebox, talk to Frank Gambino. Okay, another actually pathetic, useless topic, but it's of great importance. This matters, Frank.
Is it great importance to who?
Okay, well, to you.
Okay.
Okay, this is a recipe here, or recipes, for baking what you consider, in your opinion, the perfect chocolate chip cookie. Now, Frank, do you like them thin and crispy, soft and chewy, or almost like cake?
Soft and chewy. And even soft and chewy, I'll still dip them in milk.
Yeah. That's usually pretty good there. Okay, now, so you do dip them in milk?
Yes.
Okay.
No matter what they are.
No matter what they are. Okay. No, I completely get. Do you, now this, I think this is a no-brainer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Do you like your cookies slightly on the warm and gooey side, or do you like to wait until they get cold and they're a little harder?
Warm and gooey if you can, but they never come out that way at the store.
No, they never do. No.
Now, some cookies have been delivered to this address here at the radio station, and then they must have come right out of the oven where they were fantastic.
Wow.
So,
okay.
I mean, so there's that little... I'll take both, but I prefer warm and gooey.
Okay. No, I prefer, in fact, I think, although you can sometimes fake warm and gooey a little bit, I really do think the best warm and gooey is when it comes directly out of the oven.
Yeah.
You got to let them cool just a little bit. But now you've got to wait for them to harden just enough if you're going to dip them in milk.
Yes.
Because you can't dip warm and gooey in milk.
No.
It'll fall apart in your glass.
But does microwave count as warm and gooey?
It can if it softens them up and makes them a bit on the gooier side. I've done that.
You microwave your cookies?
For just a couple of seconds. Okay, I'll tell you what I do that really freaks people out. I bought some ice cream.
You microwave your ice cream?
Yes. Here's why. I pull it out of the freezer, and it is so rock hard, I can't even scoop any out. That's just, I mean, that is, and I've watched people trying to scoop their ice cream, and it is a lot of work. I'm in the kitchen going, struggling to get it. So I'll put it in the microwave for just a few seconds so I can at least scoop it easily.
I've never heard of anything so lazy in all my life.
Yes, well, so...
I mean, you take the ice cream and just stick it in the sink and go do something else.
You call that lazy. I call that smart, okay?
Time management, right? All right, in American Legion Baseball, the Greeley Grays over the Laramie AA Rangers 12-9 yesterday. Down in the Lubbock, Texas tournament, the East LA Dodgers beat the Cheyenne Sixers 3-1. Lubbock High School over the Cheyenne Hawks 6-1. And in the A division, the Casper Drillers split a doubleheader with Buffalo. The Drillers won game 1 9-4, and Buffalo won the nightcap 12-11. Today in Lubbock, the Cheyenne Sixers will take on Boise, Idaho, and the Cheyenne Hawks will take on Strikes High School from Texas, and the Casper Drillers will be on the road in Douglas. In the All-Star game for the major leaguers yesterday in Arlington, Texas, the American League beat the National League 5-3. So the American League has won 10 of the last 11 Midsummer Classics. Jarren Duran of the Boston Red Sox hit a 2-run homer, and he was named the MVP of the game. In collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds over the Bison Traveling Team 7-3. So the Spuds are 34-6 in Independence League play. Those two teams will play against tonight at 6:30 at Lansing Field. Wyoming Coaches Association All-Star Games will be coming up on Saturday at Casper College. Volleyball at 1 p.m. The girls basketball at 3 p.m. The boys basketball at 5. On the girls basketball side, on the South team, Jordan Grease is a member of Burns. She is a member of that team, as well as Brady Schlaps from Cheyenne East and Addison Forey from Laramie. Lexi Ransom of Natrona will play on the girls North team. The National High School Finals Rodeo moving along today in Rock Springs, still in the first go-round. For the ladies, they are currently in third place with 820 points. In the go-tying, Hadley Thompson of Yoder running in third place, and Chloe Nichols of Boulder running in 8th place in the barrels. For the boys, they are in 14th place, so they need to get with it here, but they're making some progress. In the bareback, Jacob Cook of Green River currently sitting in 10th place. In the saddle rung, Pace Garrett is 17th. He's out of Gillette, and Brenson Bartlett in the bull riding is in 17th. He is from Cheyenne. And then National High School Rodeo continues all week at the Sweetwater Events Complex in Rock Springs.
Okay. So you're not going to that, though?
No. I'll have today. We'll start the Wyoming Coaches Association practices.
Okay.
So I'll be running around with that. I'll be taking pictures tomorrow in the morning, so I'll only be here half the time. Then more practices on Thursday. Then all 3 of the games on Saturday. They have a Hall of Fame banquet for the coaches on Friday night. And I think that'll be good for the week.
I'm getting all sorts of comments on microwaving my ice cream.
Yeah, it's lazy.
Yeah, after I microwave, no, it's smart. I use a knife to dig it out, says Michelle in Cheyenne.
A knife, okay.
Is that hard? You got to use a knife. See, good morning, Glenn. Large soft with ice cream. Okay. The office serves them. Okay, so yeah, people have other ways to do it, but no, Frank, it's not lazy, it's smart. Okay?
All right.
Just because I know how to strategize.
We have a difference of opinion.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Frank. Have fun. It's smart to just a few seconds in the microwave, just a few seconds, will soften it so you can get that scoop in there so you're not breaking your arm trying to get a scoop of ice cream out. I mean, it's just common sense, folks, really. Let's Wake Up Wyoming. Six at a time. It's Wake Up Wyoming Wednesday, and over the hump we go, and we're reaching the open phones portion of the program. Hang on, though.
Today's show is sponsored by the Reversible Bidet. It's refreshing for both ends. And now in soothing menthol.
Still not sure about the menthol part. I think, wasn't the Biden administration trying to ban menthol cigarettes? Anyway, it's the most dangerous time of the day on this program every single day as we get into open phones.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in. and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. And besides calling in, there's people who text me over the Wake Up Wyoming app. So you go to your app store, type in Wake Up Wyoming, down it comes. And there's all sorts of features, including listening to old programs like it's a podcast, which are condensed so it's not a 4-hour program. We get rid of the commercial breaks and the news and stuff like that. So a couple of the notes I just got, people are hitting the chat option here. And first off, the Addison family, Panama City, Florida. Good eye seeing the USS Enterprise. Took me a second. So what that's all about is if you go to the Wake Up Wyoming website or go to your app, and this is, okay, so I've posted this before, but it's been a little while. I wanted to repost it so you people could see it. I was at the airport with my flight instructor, okay, and I'm taxiing the airplane out. He's going to show me some things. And before I get all the way out, I'm not very far away. I suddenly stop. I mean, I just hit the brakes. And he looks at me like something's wrong. Did I hear something or see something? What's wrong? And I point straight ahead. And I said, look at that. The USS Enterprise is coming in for a landing. And there was a cloud out there, and the cloud is low to the horizon. Now, again, Miss Mary, if you have the Wake Up Wyoming app, she'll alert this out at some point. But you can also just go to the Wake Up Wyoming. If you're online, it's wakeupwyoming.com, but just use the app and you'll see it. Now, you'll see just above the windsock is the USS Enterprise. There's the saucer section. There's the belly section below is clear. There's even the nacelles in the back. It's a cloud that looks just like the Enterprise. Above it, for those who are fans of the television show Firefly, hovering just above it is Firefly, also waiting to come in for a landing. That's what he's talking about. Now, next, Bill, I am jealous. Bill is from Erie. Hi, Glenn, from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Now, for those who don't know, Oshkosh, there's a couple of times a year. That one is in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. The other's in Lakeland, Florida. And they're huge air shows. And pilots come in from all over the country. So picture people who have small airplanes, too. It is a madhouse. They publish an arrival procedure, and it's a big conga line of private airplanes from all over the country. You would not believe, with very little separation. A lot closer than it usually is. And private airplanes from all over the country come in by the thousands, literally. And they take up an airport in Oshkosh, and then also they do one in Lakeland, Florida. So Oshkosh is called AirVenture. So right now this huge air show is going on where there's, and they do fighter planes, there's classic airplanes. It really is big. I haven't been to one yet, but I want to go to the one in Florida near where my sister lives. Anyway, Bill says, you put your ice cream outside here, and in 1 minute it's ready to scoop. Now, that goes back to the conversation that I was having with Frank, and for those who missed it, I'll bring you up to speed, then I'll get back to talk items for us, all right? So, I bought some ice cream. I pull it out of the freezer. A friend of mine is going to scoop himself some ice cream. And he's got the ice cream scoop, and he's just about breaking his arm because the ice cream is so hard, trying to get a few scoops out. And I've seen him do this before. He's always stubborn. He always grabs the ice cream scoop and digging through, trying to get a scoop or two out. So when he was done, I just grabbed the ice cream container, and I put it in the microwave. And now I think about it, I did it for 15 seconds. And he's telling me that I'm just insane. Like, it's not going to melt the ice cream in 15 seconds. And I pulled the ice cream container out, and now it's soft enough that I can easily get the scoop in. It's not melted by any means, nowhere near melted. But it's soft enough that scooping it is actually really easy. He's acting like I'm nuts. Frank Gambino called me lazy. I said that I'm smart. Bill in Erie said just put it outside for a couple, I wouldn't even say a minute, and the summer sun will just go ahead and warm that puppy up. All right. Let's get on to something a little more interesting. A couple of years ago, and this is something Facebook just took down. They didn't suspend me. They just took this down recently, citing community standards and bullying. even though it's been on my page for several years. There's a picture. Now, I reposted it, but just in a different way. It's the same picture, though. There's a picture of a young lady, and it looks like she's sitting in a coffee shop, and she's got her legs crossed, and she has a laptop. She's wearing a face mask, okay, and some nice expensive eyewear and some expensive boots. She has a Starbucks coffee drink at her feet with a rather pricey purse. And she's got a bunch of stickers on the cover of her laptop as she works. And the biggest sticker on there at the top of the laptop says, "Smash Capitalism." And so the original post, it pointed out all the things that she has due to capitalism. That's what Facebook took down, saying that's bullying. Again, it's been up there for several years. So I just took away the words, and I just put the picture back up. And I just asked people, can you identify what's wrong with this picture? Here's exactly how I worded it. How to identify someone who has not thought everything through. How many items can you spot? Now, I just pointed out the items. She's got some nice eyeglasses on, and these are not just, they might be prescriptions, but they're shades, okay. She's got the laptop. She's listening to something as well. I think it's through an iPod. She's got nice expensive boots on. She's got the coffee from Starbucks. She's got her expensive purse. And yet it says "Smash Capitalism." Now, I'm getting a lot of comments and good discussion going on my Facebook page, but here's one gentleman. Matthew is his name, and he says, you don't need capitalism to have things. Are you going to claim China doesn't have computers? In which case, I answered him in this way. China has computers because capitalism invented computers. China has automobiles because capitalism invented automobiles. China has railroad trains because capitalism invented railroad trains. In fact, China has electricity because capitalism invented electricity. Yeah, and I went on with several other examples until I finally said, part of the problem that you're missing here is socialism, especially communism, doesn't invent stuff. If you dig around, you might eventually find an invention or two that came through socialism. But for the most part, they've never really invented much of anything. All of the great innovations of the world have come through capitalism, and come quickly, too. We're constantly this young lady has a cell phone, another type of computer. Capitalism did that. Now, we pay socialist countries to make these items for us. They're like our factory workers. And we do that because it's cheaper to produce with China's slave labor. Unfortunately, we do it that way. Than if we were to produce it here in the United States. And by the way, China does engage in capitalism as well, just not on the level that we do. So the young man who dropped me that note, plus the young lady in the picture, have not thought everything all the way through.
Who put the toaster oven on 6? I mean, that's not even good toast. 4 is good toast. 5 is burnt toast, but 6? What were you cremating in my toaster oven?
Well, that image is going to stick with you all day. You asked for an expert. We didn't have the budget for that. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Okay, real quick on the ice cream topic. First off, my sister in Lake Wales, Florida. In Florida, you get your ice cream out, go to your spoon and dish, and when you come back, it's soft. And that's about right, especially if you're outside. It just real fast. And let's see, what was the other one? I had to look this up. Robin Cheyenne. You're smart using a microwave. Some microwaves even have a softened ice cream setting. I didn't know that. I looked it up. It's very difficult to find them, but they do exist. There are a few microwaves out there that do have a softened ice cream setting. Now, having looked that up, I also accidentally found this. Most microwaves, it says, don't have a specific soft ice cream setting, but you can use lower power levels to soften ice cream. And they have instructions. Put the ice cream in the microwave. Microwave on 30 to 50% power. Microwave to 10 to 20 second bursts. Check it every about 10 seconds or so to see if it's soft enough. That's about what I do. Although I never lowered the setting, the power setting. Whatever power setting it was at, I did. So I never tried a lower setting. I just went ahead and put it in there. I thought, let me try like 10 seconds. And I'll test it. Nope. Then I'll do another 10 seconds. You know, that's usually how I do it. Oh, that's soft enough. So there's even instructions on the internet. Ice cream too hard? Soften it in the microwave. I'm going to have to tell Frank that because he called me lazy. RH in Wiggins, Colorado. Hi, Glenn. Reference to any possible inventions which have come from socialism. If they did, it was likely despite socialism, communism, which is true. That goes back to what I was talking about a moment ago. The young lady sitting at a Starbucks with designer boots, designer eyewear, a laptop. She's got a phone, headsets in, a designer bag that I mentioned, the Starbucks coffee, and on her laptop is a sticker that says Smash Capitalism. So when I'm asked a question, you don't think they have that stuff in China? Oh, they do, but not because of communism. They have it because of capitalism. Your airplane, your car, your train, electricity. I mean, let's just run down the list of things. And now, if you look real hard, you can probably find an invention through communism, but you're going to have to look really hard to find anything. And then even then, the invention was typically just garbage. Now, on that note, there's a website called Steve and Casper. Girl from the national anthem. Oh, okay. Yes, I did. Okay, let me go back to what Steve is saying real quick, because I'm doing open phones, but I'll go ahead and take what people are saying off of the internet, too. I did answer that yesterday, Steve, but I'm going to go back for those people who are new to the program. Yesterday, near the end of the program, I played a clip, and I was wondering what was going on, and I'm going to play part of this clip again. This is a young lady, and I mean really young, very attractive young lady, and she is Grammy nominated for her songs. She's supposed to be a country singer, and she isn't singing country pop. This is actually pretty good stuff, and she has a really unique voice. So she was at a baseball game, and she was singing the national anthem, and this is, I think, just last night or the night before. I think the night before. And it was just absolutely horrible. And I was wondering, does she have laryngitis or something? What's wrong here? This was just, the audience is looking at her like, the hell? Here we go. Yeah, it's just absolutely horrible. So people were giving her a hard time over that. And yesterday I was asking the same thing. What was that? Today she checked herself into rehab. She said she was drunk that night, and she's been drunk a lot. And she's having substance abuse problems. And that's why earlier this morning, Steve, I had said, oftentimes when I see young people get into the entertainment industry, music, movies, television, whatever, I worry about them. Because we all have seen what the entertainment industry can do to people, especially when they're young. She's a very attractive young lady. If you go and check her music out, she's actually very good, too. But she's having substance abuse problems, and this is what those industries can do to a person. So I wish her well. I hope that she, that rehab works for her, and that she can come back and redo that national anthem. Just apologize. Sorry about that, everybody. That was just horrible. That's my fault, but I'm much better now. And do a wonderful rendition, which I believe that she can do. Shelley is in Mills. I referred to myself as a redneck on Facebook one time and got the bullying warning. Really? I'm a happy redneck capitalist, though. Hang on. You referred to yourself as a redneck on Facebook. To yourself, not to somebody else, but to yourself. And they called that bullying. For that matter, why would it be bullying to refer to somebody else as a redneck? Well, especially when you take a look at where the term comes from. Some people might think that's a derogatory term, but I don't. It really just refers to usually a farmer, but someone who works outside, and yeah, they get a sunburned neck, a redneck. So that's not a derogatory term. This algorithm on Facebook is just, at times, stupid with what it picks out as bullying or fact-checking, for that matter. They have, at times, flagged things which everybody's wondering, why would you flag that, Facebook? And they're trying to say that factually this is not correct, and if you look at it, it is correct, obviously. I understand Facebook, they deal with so many posts every single second. I mean, think about how many people are on Facebook. I mean, it's billions, literally billions. And they deal with so many posts every second. They cannot have people there going through all the posts. So they create an algorithm. Unfortunately, the people who created the algorithm are not all that savvy. I'll put it that way. And so you can imagine what the algorithm's like. And then it ends up flagging all sorts of just nonsense. And because it's Facebook, it's very difficult, I mean extremely difficult, to get anybody to talk to you if you were flagged or put in Facebook jail or, hey, this is not right, why did you put me in Facebook jail? It's very difficult to have any recourse on that at all, which is why I'm surprised. I do it because I've got friends and family, and it's an easy way to communicate. Also with you folks, too. A lot of you found me on Facebook just by typing in Glenn Woods, and there I am. And if you want to friend me, that's okay. On my personal page, I just have conversations. I don't talk about the same things I do here on the air, for the most part. But really, I find their algorithm is just nonsense at times. I'm surprised they haven't lost a whole lot more people to other platforms. Other than those other platforms are not as good as Facebook at this time. That's probably the main reason why. All right, coming up on 8:30, local news coming your way right after a local news update on your weather forecast, and you and I get into it for a nice long segment of open phones. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Thunder.
Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS.
$8:36 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, so 888-97 Woods the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. So I was talking earlier about this thing I posted on Facebook. That Facebook said this is bullying. So they took it down, and I just reposted it in a different way, which will probably get past their censors. But here's what it is. Just for those who are just joining me. Young lady sitting in a coffee shop. She has an expensive laptop. She's got her phone with her. She's got nice boots on. She's got some designer glasses. She's having a Starbucks drink and a designer purse. And on her laptop is a sticker that says Smash Capitalism. All right, and somebody did question me, well, you think China doesn't have stuff like this? China has stuff like that because capitalism invented it. Okay? Communism really doesn't invent anything. Okay? It's capitalism that invented that stuff. So now, on that note, let's go back a little bit. There's a website called Human Progress. An article on Human Progress says, the late Danish historian Patricia Krohn cataloged these uncanny similarities in her book Pre-Industrial Societies, Anatomy of the Pre-Modern World, which reveals how, despite vast cultural differences across the globe, people once eked out an existence remarkably alike. She gives these striking uniformities a name: pre-industrial pattern. The average person in every society was once an illiterate peasant suffering through much the same unimaginably poor living conditions, lacking in political liberty, and generally having extremely limited agency in directing the course of their own lives. I've talked about this before. This is back when globally it wasn't so much socialism, but think about it. We had kings, we had lords. No matter what society you went to, people were ruled over. And so in society after society, a person did not own their own property. They did not own their own life. Whatever they produced belonged to the king too. Their whole life was about serving whoever their king was. And for the longest time, society did not advance at all. People were poor, starving. I mean, the list goes on. As far as inventions, human beings were going nowhere. We lived as human beings for the longest time without advancing at all. So what changed? What really changed is all of a sudden here comes this country that would be, America. Along comes this country where we did something a little bit different. This is what a republic is. This is why when people say, when you say the word democracy and you say we're a republic, what you mean by that is here comes an opportunity for you to live your life as an individual. Government is not in charge of you. It is not majority rules over you. Your life is yours. That's what a republic is, and government's job is to protect that. Your property is yours. If you buy a piece of property, it belongs to you. Now, would you like to be rich? Go do it. Do you have an idea for an invention? Make it. And if that invention makes you rich, congratulations. And so a lot of people think about innovative ideas. I've met throughout my life all sorts of people on every level of, rich, poor, wherever. All sorts of people in our society here in America are constantly thinking about that great idea that could make them rich. You know what I would love to do? You've done it. You've seen something and thought, if I invented such and such, I'd probably be rich. You should give it a try. You might be. Okay? Figure it out. But this is what we do. We have whole industries out there that are designed, if somebody has an idea but they don't know what to do with it, there's whole industries out there that will help you with your idea. We have television shows today. I've only watched part of an episode, but that Shark Tank episode, where people have an idea and they go in front of some entrepreneurs and they pitch their idea. Here's my idea. Would you invest in my idea? And this is where all of these riches and innovation comes from. And then all of a sudden we have a society that is more technologically advanced than ever, richer than ever, more comfortable than ever. And other countries have followed suit following our example of that, and all of a sudden we're not living in poverty anymore. The woman who wrote this article said most people, and certainly all members of Western civilization, are born into a world which differs radically from their ancestors, with the result that most of human history is a closed book to them. We all take the world in which we are born for granted and think the human condition as ours. This is a mistake. The vast mass of human experience has been made under quite different conditions. Her book takes steps toward bringing the impossibly large divide between the modern reader and the people of the pre-industrial world. But I wouldn't even say, because she's right about that, but I'm going to take a step past the pre-industrial world too, into modern society. Remember, there's only one fat guy in North Korea. How is everybody else living? What's Venezuela like right now? What's Cuba like? What was the old Soviet Union like? What's China like? Despite the fact that China creates so many things and people in China are working like crazy, most people in China are poverty-stricken. There are rich people in China because in China has allowed some free enterprise zones. And when they allowed free enterprise zones, people got industrialists, and all of a sudden they became millionaires and billionaires, and here come the inventions and so on, because China took a few areas and said, we're just not going to touch them. We're going to let people be industrious, and watch what happens. Now, this author says, to think away modern industry is to think away an enormous amount of wealth. A machine tended by 20 workers can produce more pots in a single year than can 20 potters in a lifetime. at a fraction of the cost, maintaining 20 potters from youth to death. By our standards, the production of the pre-industrial world were both few and very expensive. The output of agriculture meant that a vast majority of people had to be peasants way back then. But today, we have an abundance of food and energy. And when it gets too hot out or too cold, we have the energy. We feel so comfortable today. You and I, we complain about things. You've heard it. It's first world problems, right? We often complain in way of, I feel so miserable today because you have no idea how bad it used to be. And especially when you had absolutely no freedom or liberty whatsoever. Now, there's still parts of the world that are like that. There was a time when the entire planet was like that. But what got us out of there and brought us to where we are today is liberty, freedom, capitalism, limited government. And the idea that those people that we do have in government are not here, they're not in charge of us, they're not supposed to be taking care of us. You are in charge of yourself, and you can go as far as you want to go. Don't think you're making enough money? Do what you got to do to make more. What do you got? Show us what you got. Sky's the limit. You can go as far as you can take it. And if you need help, there's other people out there who are trying to do the same thing you're trying to do. Get with them, form a team, get busy. And how far can you take yourself? How far can you go? How rich can you get? How successful can you be? Rich isn't always money, I understand, of course, either. But yeah, those countries that have repressed freedom and liberty and property rights and so on, people can't even invent either. And so where's the ingenuity? Where are the inventions? Well, there's no reason to, because if they invent something, it's just going to be taken away from them. So what's the point? 8:45,
Wake up, Wyoming, with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
8:48's the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino's waiting by. So call me lazy, will you, Frank?
Lazy.
Well, boy, do I have something for you.
First off, you can exceed that?
Yeah, well, no, actually. Okay, first off, what the conversation we had about ice cream spilled over into the next hour. Not because of me, because listeners were chiming in on it.
Oh, okay.
And so,
so they agree you're lazy too?
No, actually.
Oh, no.
There are, as you know, microwaves that have a popcorn setting.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you can find one right now, but there have been microwaves with a softened ice cream setting.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
And get a load of this. So I went to look it up, and there are articles written, and they're all over Google that I have here, how to soften your ice cream in the microwave. And it gives instructions. Put it on a lower setting. Put it in there for this many seconds. Check it to see. Put it back in if you need to do it again. So you're not melting the ice cream. You're just softening it so it's easier to scoop out. There are actual whole magazines that have written articles about this. Here it is on Reddit. I soften ice cream in the microwave, says somebody.
Okay, that means that you're not the only lazy person out there.
America's Test Kitchen writes, a better way to soften ice cream in a microwave. You see? But you're just calling it... So
where have we gone?
You live in the first world, Frank.
I like the first world.
Yes, I just don't want to go. I mean, to sit there struggling with the ice cream scoop. Because again, here's this friend of mine, trying to get the ice cream out. What's your problem? Be smart, put it in the microwave for 15 seconds, and you can scoop it easy.
This is the same kind of thinking that if you put a pizza in the microwave for 1,000 degrees for 1 minute, then it cooks.
Yeah, that's not good. No. You don't put a pizza in the microwave and cook it, that kind of thing. There are some things that people put in the microwave to cook that I think, why would you cook? Like put chicken in the microwave to cook it.
No.
No, I've tried it. It's horrible.
National High School Finals Rodeo moving along in Rock Springs in the first go-around. The Wyoming girls team is running third with 820 points. Hadley Thompson from Yoder is third in the goat tying in the first go-around. Chloe Nichols is eighth in the barrel racing. She's out of Boulder. And Ramey Hicks from Gillette, fifth in the breakaway roping. The Wyoming boys team is currently 14th. Jacob Cook from Green River, 10th in the first go of the bareback. Also, Pace Garrett is 17th in the saddle bronc. He's out of Gillette. And Brenson Bartlett of Cheyenne, 17th in the bull riding. The first go will end today, and then they'll start the second go later on today, and then that rodeo will move all week at the Sweetwater Complex in Rock Springs. Legion Baseball, the Greeley Grays, the winner over the Laramie AA Rangers 12-9. The East LA Dodgers over the Cheyenne Sixers 3-1. That's in the Lubbock, Texas tournament. And then Lubbock High School over the Cheyenne Hawks 6-1. And then today, the Cheyenne Sixers will take on Boise, Idaho, and the Hawks will meet Strikes High School from Lubbock. In the Legion A ranks, the Casper Drillers split a doubleheader with Buffalo. The Drillers won game 1 9-4, and then Buffalo came back to win the nightcap 12-11. In collegiate baseball, the Casper Spuds 34-6 on the year after a 7-3 win over the Bison traveling team. They will take on that team again at 6:30 at Lansing Field tonight. In the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, the American League beat the National League 5-3. Boston's Jaron Duran with a 2-run homer. He was named the MVP of the game for the American League, and Shohei Ohtani had a 400-foot 3-run homer for the National League. The American League has won 10 of the last 11 Midsummer Classics. Wyoming Coaches Association All-Star Games will be on Saturday at Casper College. The volleyball will be at 1, the girls basketball at 3, and the boys basketball at 5. On the girls basketball side, on the South team, they have Jordan Grease from Burns, Brady Schlaps from Cheyenne East, Addison Forey from Laramie, and Lexi Ransom from Natrona will be on the girls basketball team for the North. And that's it in sports.
Who's better overall, the American League or the National League?
Well, I would say I would say the American League.
Okay.
Not by much.
Okay.
Not by much. Now, in this All-Star game, it's kind of, guys are only in there for a little bit because they don't want to use the pitchers too much because they have to go back to their regular teams, But the guy from Pittsburgh, the Skeens guy, he's... for a rookie, he comes in there and he throws over 100 miles an hour all the time. Okay. So there was some pretty interesting stuff. I always like the matchups. You have the best hitters against the best pitchers, you don't see that every day.
The reason I ask that because I've heard people arguing baseball, and they will definitively say that one league is much better than the other. And of course, I don't know.
It's not much better.
Not better.
It's back and forth.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. Oh, and this is going to be fun. On MSNBC, the Democrats have conspiracy theories involving Trump's ear. We'll look at some of those. And your phone calls. Wake Up Wyoming. Sixth of time. Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Wednesday. Over the hump we ride. My name's Glenn Woods. 888-97 Woods is the phone number.
Today's show is sponsored by the Reversible Bidet. It's refreshing for both ends. And now in Soothing Menthol.
Usually if I'm working one end, I don't want the same thing to work the other. I'm just going out there.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave. Just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, MSNBC just can't leave it alone. This is just good. This is just so good. I love it when the conspiracy theories come out from all points of view. I mean, the moment Trump was shot at right away, conservatives had conspiracy theories and continue with them, and liberals do too. Now, MSNBC cannot allow Trump to get a sympathy vote. They can't. So they got to come up with something. Now, before I play this for you, for Trump fans out there, all rise, hats off, hands on your hearts. All together now. You may be seated. All right, so let's go to MSNBC, and we're going to, let's see, I'm trying to remember the name of the character again. Oh, yeah, Michael Steele. Michael Steele, who at one point was, I don't know if he still is, but he was chairman of the Democrat National Committee. So he's being interviewed by MSNBC about Trump, who's been on the floor, by the way, the entire time of this convention, and always with that bandage on his ear. Well, of course, a chunk was taken out of his ear. Not a big chunk, but still a chunk was taken out of his ear. So, what could possibly be the conspiracy theory? Let's tune in and listen.
Where I am at this point is it's been 3 days going on 4 since this horrific event occurred. A person lost their life, 2 have been severely injured. And yet we've not received a medical report from the hospital, nor have we received a medical report from the campaign or from the Trump organization about the extent of the damage to his ear. If he was shot by a high caliber bullet, there should probably be very little ear there. And so we'd like to know that. Is there cosmetic surgery involved? What is the prognosis for recovery? Were there stitches? What is the extent and nature of the damage to his ear? Was it caused by a bullet as opposed to, as some reports from those on the scene, other reporters, saying that it was actually shards of glass from the teleprompter itself, not the bullet. So there are a lot of questions around that ear, and yet there's been no response to that. Instead, just showing the image of the man coming into right. the hall with the wounded ear.
Let me jump in on that.
Politics.
Let me jump in on that, and then we'll continue. We're looking at that photo. Michael Steele is correct. While there is a certain amount of time that could be understandable for any medical scenario, the calls around the current president's medical condition, the questions around his capacity, right, are also the same questions you have in a medical event like this. Certainly the public would want to know as much as possible about both incidents, and the Trump campaign has not been the most transparent. So I think getting medical records and briefing on that at some point would be appropriate. That's what journalists often ask for.
And there's also those people, isn't that great? There's also those people who have said that the whole thing was faked and Trump did damage to his own ear. He can clearly be seen throwing his hand up and cutting his own ear. Yeah. So this is what MSNBC has to do in order to do anything to discredit Trump, because they've got nothing else at this point. So why are you still wearing that bandage all these many days later? We haven't seen a medical report on this. You would have been, minus an entire ear. Not if it just nicked it. Okay? If it just nicked it, it takes a little chunk out. There's a little bleeding, but there's just a little piece taken out of there. There's a little bleeding that happens. And so I don't know what the procedure is. It doesn't necessarily have to involve stitches. Probably just bandage it up and let it go ahead and heal over. And I would bet that a big part of the bandage is not just to make sure that it stays safe, because it could be sensitive there to healing, So you don't want something to bump it and it starts bleeding all over again. So you go ahead and keep a bandage on it, even if it is just a little bit of a nick. And that nick doesn't just take a little bit of skin away, it takes a little bit of cartilage with it. And from what I saw from pictures, it didn't look like much was actually taken. It looked, there was more blood with the wound than the size of the wound being very small. It was just a tiny nick. Still, though, a bullet flew right by his head. And they can't talk about that, can they? No. So they got to come up with why is he hiding this? Why is he still wearing the bandage? It makes sense why he would still be wearing the bandage, to protect it while it heals. Plus, I would bet you that right now it kind of looks unsightly. It's, I'm sorry to go there, some of you, it's early for some of you, you're still eating breakfast. It's scabbing up at this point. I bet you it doesn't look all that pretty. Yeah, for something like that to heal up, even if it's just a little nick, it's not going to look pretty. And you know the way reporters are. They are going to be zooming in. The cameras are going to zoom in. If he takes the bandage off and there's a nice scab there, the cameras zoom in on it, and here come all the speculation about it. So just leave the bandage on for as long as possible. Not just to protect it, but to keep the idiots from MSNBC going on about it. Let's see, Junkman in Alliance, Nebraska. Jimmy Fallon showed a clip of Trump dozing off. Oh, did? And I wouldn't doubt that. At some point, yeah, even Trump, he's got to get a little bored with sitting there. I would have. I have not watched a whole lot of the convention, really. I tune in from time to time to see for a moment or so, and it lasts mere moments, and then I'm out again. It's just one speech after the next, and there's a lot of noise on the floor, and that's about it. And Trump is there, obviously, because it's his convention, so he's going to be there. But I can imagine sometime in the middle of the afternoon, this gets really dull, and Trump starts to doze off. But anyway, that's MSNBC for you. They can't allow anything good to happen to Trump. And they got to make him out to be the biggest jerk in the history of big jerks. So they're going to do and say anything. Why is the ear still covered up? Why haven't we received a medical report on this? What's really going on? Well, if you took the bandage off and showed the ear to the cameras, what are they going to say then? Right. I ate John in Grand Canyon. Morning, Glenn. After I had a piece of my ear removed for cancer, I had a bandage that big. It's normal to keep it clean while healing. Well, in fact, John, of course, I home cared my dad through Alzheimer's, right? And I noticed one day my dad, this had been building for a while, but one day I took a good look at it, and I thought, that doesn't look good. And so I took my dad to a doctor to have a look at his ear. And the top of my dad's ear had a little cancer growing, just at the very top of the ear. And so I talked to the doctors about what to do about it, and they said, laser it off. Laser the top of his ear off? Now, if you're thinking a huge chunk, no. But it would have made the top of his ear flat. They had to cut off a piece of his ear, including some cartilage there. And so my dad had to wear that bandage for quite a while to keep it clean. And to prevent any more damage, especially when he slept, to keep any more damage, because he might roll over on it, right? So, yeah, that bandage was on there for quite a while, and I had to change it and change the dressing from time to time. And again, it was not a very big chunk, but it was a piece that was taken out. So that bandage was on there for quite a while. Yeah, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But also, I kept the bandage on for a while because the healing process was, ugh. And again, if Trump takes that bandage off, what the cameras are going to do and what the commentators are going to do.
Woke Radio, WOKE, the shortwave radio station that identifies as 1,000-watt FM. Because we are what we feel, not we feel what we are.
Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
9:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, whatever you're doing, hold it. Stop the music, too. You're going to love this. Miss Mary just came walking into the studio. Now, I know it's rare when she walks into the studio. Just so you know, Mary works on the other side of the building, so when you call the show, she's way on the other side of the building at her own desk and doing her own work, and she's taking your calls and other such things. So she doesn't often come down here while the show's on the air. Now, one time she came in here prancing along, tra-la-la-la-la. happy, smiling, and asking me, I've got a lady on the phone. She's from Nebraska, and she thinks that Trump is Jesus. Do you want to take the call? And I said, well, of course. Oh, that was a great call. Okay, now, this time she walked in, which I know something's up. If Mary's here in the studio with me, something's up. And she walks in this time and says, okay, so here's the dealio. Okay, well, again, when she does that, I know something's really up. Here's the dealio. Okay, we have an opportunity to get Weird Al Yankovic on this program. I know, right? I've interviewed some really fun people, but I get a chance to interview Weird Al Yankovic. Thing is, Al is on we're going to call him Al because he's a friend of ours now, right? He's on a tour and he's got a really tight schedule when it comes to radio appearances, television appearances, and so on. So the only time he has available that works for them and us is this coming Monday, and it's exactly the time that Frank is on the air doing sports. Yeah, on a Monday. So now, and this is early in the morning. We're talking like 6:50 in the morning when Al can come on, Weird Al. So would I be willing to do that? That means we have to bump Frank. Okay, well, I'm sorry, Frank. I mean, I like you, guy, but this is Weird Al Yankovic. Now, I know Frank is going to be fine with it. And some of you are going to be wondering, so is that a permanent replacement? Unfortunately, no, although we discussed it. But we don't think we can afford Weird Al Yankovic as a permanent replacement on this program. We can, however, afford Frank Gambino. Gives you an idea of what our budget is, right? Okay, so when it comes to, I got one more break with Frank this hour, and I will break the news to him that on Monday, during his regular sports segment in the 6 o'clock hour, he will be bumped and Weird Al Yankovic will be in his place. Now, for those who are thinking, but I'm not up that early in the morning, don't worry. I'm going to record it and play it again later in the morning so you can hear the interview. So Weird Al will be live once, recorded the next time that I play him. But be sure that you keep listening for the rest of this hour because near the end of the hour, yeah, here's Reefer in Carpenter, Wyoming. Weird Al, yes, that's what I'm saying. But you'll want to stick with the program all the way up to 9:50 when Frank is on the air again. And I get to break the news to Frank, okay? Because this ought to be just sweet. Okay, real quick, of course, you know we're living in the end times.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. And while we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
Now, real quick, let's go to Casper, Wyoming for this one. Rocky Mountain Power. I was there, and it just the power went out yesterday for a little while. And there was all sorts of ideas as to what might have happened, but it turns out yesterday, power outage affected about 25,000 residents in surrounding areas. Rocky Mountain Power on their Facebook page stated it was due to an emergency de-energization. This is a practice that Rocky Mountain Power may use to mitigate the risk of wildfire. Okay, because, I mean, apparently, when you got a lot of electricity on a very hot and dry day, it can start sparking things. So ramp it down for a while, cool it down, not sparking fires. That's why. Now, having said that, get a load of this headline. Electricity rationing at charging stations for electric cars due to limited charging infrastructure. And this is in Europe. So in Europe, they're really, really, really pushing the idea of people driving electric cars, which hasn't been working out too well for them, just like here in the United States. But for those people who are driving electric cars, apparently there's rationing at some of those charging stations, which is yet another problem for owners of electric cars. Because now they have trouble, if they can get in to a working charging station. But if the charging station is working, then they can only be there for a certain length of time, which means they may not be able to charge their vehicle all the way. Add this to the list of reasons why electric car owners are beginning to not like their electric car. I'm sure there's people out there that bought an electric car that just love it. I'm not going to say that doesn't exist. It probably does. But there's there's a real good number of people, about half, if not a little bit more, that bought an electric vehicle and are just saying, this is not working out. There's just too many things that are just inconvenient. And I wonder at what point we're going to have, we already did in a sense here in the United States. I'll talk about it in the next segment. But, part of the problem we had here in the United States was in California when they had some really hot days, but they weren't producing enough electricity because they're trying to go all wind and solar. So they asked people with electric cars, could you not charge your cars during these hours, during peak hours? Because we just don't have the power to run everything, the whole grid for the state or even just that city, and charge your electric vehicle at the same time. Coming up on 9:30, local news coming away after local news update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. I'll finish up this story, but your calls are welcome. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming.
Glenn Woods. He talks to you, not at you. Be part of the show at 888-97-WOODS. This is Wake Up Wyoming on K2 Radio.
9:36 the times, Wake Up Wyoming. So let me finish up this story with you real quick here. It's about electric vehicles in Europe and the latest problem. This story says, Germany's online blackout news reports that charging stations are, having a bit of a problem with the grid. There's not enough power, really, to help these vehicles in some European countries, like in Dutch countries, for example. So in Germany, if drivers take more than 45 minutes to charge at their electric car at a charging station, they'll have to pay an extra 25 cent euros for each additional minute. So in other words, the way to do this is to fine them for being there too long. Is it their fault that they are there too long? If an electric vehicle pulls up to plug in somewhere and it's going to take about an hour or an hour and a half to charge the vehicle, don't blame the driver, owner of the vehicle. It's the vehicle's fault and it's the grid's fault. But because you're there too long, we're going to start charging you extra. Quote, this measure is intended to ensure a fair distribution of the charging infrastructure and prevent unnecessary overparking, writes up Blackout News. So if you stand at the charging station for an hour longer, you pay additional money, according to the news site, apparently. The fee is designed to reduce the long charging lines occurring at charging stations, especially as millions of Europeans are heading out for summer holidays. Yeah, of course, Europeans do it too. It's summertime. People want to get out. If they have an electric vehicle, there's more people on the road. It's summertime, right? According to Lego, the introduction of this fee is necessary. It's not, but okay. To ensure fair and timely access to charging stations. Lego explains that the charge is intended to prevent e-car drivers from occupying the charging station for longer than necessary. No, you charge it until it's full of charge. What do you mean longer than necessary? This just means more burden for electric car drivers, the story says. Another reason, power grid limitations due to grid. And again, if you have power limitations, It's not the driver's fault, the owner of the car's fault. Don't go blaming them that they have to be there that long. But they're the ones who are going to be fined for it, which means they have to drive away if they choose not to pay the fine. They're going to drive away with not a full charge, which is not what they want. Micah is in Cheyenne. Hello, Micah.
Just a reminder that this weekend is Longmire Day.
It is, yeah.
And it's supposed to be a beautiful weekend all the days, because I checked the weather. So, yeah, for anybody who's a Longmire fan or just people who want to visit Buffalo, this should be a good weekend for it.
Let me see. See who's going to be there, Dave. Longmire Days 2024. I have been to one. I just want to see who's going to be there from the cast of characters.
From the cast?
Yeah.
There are quite a few of them, again.
Yeah.
Even after all these years.
Yeah. I wonder if they're ever going to... There's been talk about bringing that back for a few more episodes, or even making a movie or something like that.
They've talked about that. They've talked about doing a movie. They've talked about all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun, too, to go to Longmire Days, because they always have the latest updates right there in close and personal.
Right, yeah. Let me see. Craig. Okay. All right. And by the way, I just love Buffalo. It's one of my favorite towns. Thank you. I appreciate you calling in. Yeah, Longmire Days up there in Buffalo. And see, Craig will be there. Red Thunder, talent show auditions. So you want to write a book, how to do that with the author of Longmire. And I can tell you, in fact, I like that they're having, with the author, Craig Johnson of Longmire series, they have a how to write a book talk with him. And I can tell you one of the ways, because I get people, I come out with the occasional book myself, as you know. The Uncomplicated Life was one of them. And, of course, my novel Essence was another one. And then, of course, the latest one, which is Genericville, about a horrible homeowners association based on real homeowners association horror stories. And I'll tell you a little bit about how you write a book. Sorry for getting off on a tangent. It just struck me when I saw that. Because a lot of you have ideas, but you don't know how to write the book. You treat it like a job. You take certain days out of the week and you set them aside. And those days out of the week plus certain hours. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and take 2 or 3 hours each day, if that's what you can do, right? And then you sit down and work on the book, whether you feel like it or not. And writer's block is nonsense. There is no such thing. Sit down and work out the book, whether you feel like it or not. Even if you write a bunch of junk and you end up throwing it away. And you just keep doing that until the book is finished. That's how you write a book. There's more to it than that. But as far as making yourself sit down and do it, there you go. All right. Next segment, I get to talk with Frank about him being bumped for Weird Al Yankovic. Weird Al is going to be on this program on Monday if all things go well. Unfortunately, we have to bump Frank during one of his segments. And I heard that Frank is okay with that. Kind of thought he would be. Let's wake up.
This program is intended for immature audiences only. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Coming up on 9:48 off, we go to the Icebox to talk to Frank Gambino. Frank, I wanted to break the news that you were being bumped, but Miss Mary beat me to it.
For Monday?
Yeah, Weird Al Yankovic.
You're going to have that dude.
I'm going to have him on the air, but he can only come on, the schedule is tight for him, during your segment early Monday morning.
I will gladly cede time to Weird Al.
I kind of figured you would, yeah. Now, so of course, some people were wondering, was this going to be a permanent replacement? And my answer was, we cannot afford to permanently employ Weird Al Yankovic, but we can afford you.
Weird Frank Gambino.
Yes, that's right. So, yeah, it's just one segment. It's actually the first one in the morning, so if you want to sleep in, Frank.
Well, okay, for an extra half an hour.
Yes.
And Weird Al is going to be on with us.
Just
why?
I don't know yet. I don't know the reason why. Maybe he's got a book out. I don't know.
I guess he's going to have a new song.
That could be it. Now, here's what really gets me, Frank, and this is going to make you and I feel really, really old, okay? So I went by our newsroom, and I walked in and said to Colby, hey, I'm going to have Weird Al on the air. And she looked at me and said, who's Weird Al?
Oh, please.
Yeah. And I say, you need to get on YouTube and look that up. I mean, I know she's from a different generation, but it's Weird Al Yankovic.
But he's generational.
I would think so. But how does she not know who Weird Al is?
Maybe she doesn't watch TV anymore.
Miss Mary knows. Just checking here. Miss Mary, did you know who Weird Al Yankovic was before he was to be booked on the program? I'm just curious if she did. Because I'm thinking some of the tunes that he went ahead and did parodies of were just timeless.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know how you don't know who Weird Al is. And some of my favorites were Amish Paradise. That was great. And also I'm Fat for I'm Bad.
No, he has a ton.
Oh, Miss Mary says, I love Weird Al. Good, okay.
All right, that's three of us now that know who Weird Al is.
Okay, good. But doesn't it really just make you feel old when someone comes into the room of a younger generation and has no idea?
No, I feel actually more mature, and those people are clueless.
Okay, Frank, you should never feel more mature, just telling you.
Well, Weird Al about that.
I'm not going to buy the maturity thing.
Okay, come on, give me a break.
I wouldn't even give myself the maturity thing. But okay.
Well, no.
I'm going to have to find out then. Okay. Miss Mary says, I grew up writing White and Nerdy. Which is
just about right. Yeah.
Yes, I would say that's just about right. That just describes so many of us, the whole White and Nerdy thing. I also appreciated a lot of the costumes that he wore and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's still some great parody artists out there today, and that's something that I've always appreciated.
But none like him.
I would say no. Oh, no, but hang on again.
There's been a few, but not really like him.
The Streak. What was...
Ray Stevens.
Ray Stevens.
Yeah,
now he did some great parody stuff, too. And The Streak was original. Most of Ray Stevens' stuff was original and not parody. But still, though, I mean, he's just timeless, too.
Yeah, absolutely. American Legion baseball coming up today in the Lubbock, Texas tournament. The Cheyenne Post 6 Sixers will take on Boise, Idaho, and the Cheyenne Hawks will take on Strikes High School from Lubbock. Yesterday, the Sixers lost to the East LA Dodgers 3-1, and Lubbock High School beat the Hawks 6-1. Also yesterday in American Legion baseball, the Greeley Grays over the Laramie AA Rangers 12-9. The Casper Drillers split a twin bill with Buffalo. The Drillers won the first game 9-4, and Buffalo won the second game 12-11. Also, Torrington over the Cheyenne Eagles 12-2. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game was last night in Arlington, Texas. The American League beat the National League 5-3. Boston's Jarren Duran with a 2-run homer to be named MVP of the game. Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Dodgers had a 3-run homer for the National League. The American League has won 10 of 11 All-Star games. In the collegiate baseball in the Independence League, the Casper Spuds beat the Bison traveling team 7-3. They're 34-6 in Independence League play. Those two teams will play again tonight at 6:30. The Wyoming Coaches Association High School All-Star Games will be on Saturday at Casper College at the T-Bird Gym. The volleyball will be at 1, the girls basketball at 3, and the boys basketball at 5. In the girls basketball rosters for the South, Jordan Grease from Burns is on the roster, as well as Brady Slavs from Cheyenne East and Addison Forey from Laramie. And on the North team, it's Lexi Rentz from Mency will be playing on that team. The National High School Finals Rodeo continuing this morning. To this morning's session will be the end of the first go, and then tonight's session is the beginning of the second go. So far in the first go, Hadley Thompson from Yoder is third in the go time. Ramey Hicks from Gillette is fifth in the breakaway, and in the bareback, Chloe Nichols of Boulder is eighth. The Wyoming girls team is currently running third. The Wyoming boys team is running 14th. Jacob Cook of Green River 10th, and Brenson Bartlett of Cheyenne 17th in the bull ridings. And so the rodeo will continue the entire week, and the championship short go will be on Saturday night from Rock Springs. That's in sports.
I think you can help me out with this. As you were talking about this, I decided to go ahead and write a parody article for tomorrow. Okay. And this I want to be the Wyoming Tourist Rodeo.
Wyoming Tourist Rodeo, okay.
Yes. So this will include, let me see, bear wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Buffalo riding or bison riding.
Yeah. And,
bison wrestling.
And petting.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Team roping with bison.
Oh, team roping. Also, we have to do Some laps in the thermal pools.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, you can.
Yeah, okay. This would be the whole, or we could call it Olympics rather than rodeo if you want to do that, so we can add some other events.
You can ride, rough stock elk and moose.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and write up a bunch of events for the Wyoming Tourist Rodeo so they can participate too.
Right, yeah, and you get a trophy.
Absolutely. Yeah, your life.
Yeah, pretty much, if you're interested in it.
Thank you, Frank. It's Wake Up Wyoming.